these are the 6 questions you should be asking in your software engineering interview. So congratulations on landing the interview in the first place. That itself is a feat. So if you got here and you're about to enter the software engineering interview, then congratulations on passing your phone screening. Or if you're already here, awesome profile or resume. So shout out to you. So question 1, who is the team comprised of and who will I be reporting to? You can learn a lot about a company based on how they structure their teams. If a member of product and maybe someone from QA is on your team, then that shows all their teams are cross-functional and that they're independent, and then there's not necessarily a hierarchy of how everything works, which is awesome because that means that a lot of the people on your team and the rest of the teams in general are going to be self-starters. And a lot of companies, sometimes the product is separate from the team and they may not have a product member on the team. So this kind of already creates that hierarchical standing with product to where product just kind of says, hey, we need to make these features, and then they just tell the software engineers what to do. And that's not really a position that I want to be in. Maybe it's right for you and you just, that's your workflow and that's what you like. Some people really enjoy it. But I like product to come to me with problems and I can solve them because I'm a software engineer. Also, if they don't answer it directly, kind of hint at the fact that you want to know the experience level. So maybe you ask, who is on the team and who are they comprised of? Who do I report to? Is there a team lead on the team that's maybe more senior, etc., so that they kind of know what you're trying to ask. And from here, they usually tell you, oh yeah, it's just a bunch of like mid-level engineers, or we have a team lead on each team. It's kind of different wherever you go, but usually you want at least one senior engineer or more experienced engineer on each team. That way, you just have a more experienced engineer mentoring the younger engineers on your team, and also just someone you can learn from. If you get on a team and then they're all about the same level as you in the same tech stack, usually you don't learn as quickly. You will still learn stuff, but just it's not as quickly. So that's why I always vouch for wanting a senior software engineer or more senior level person on my team so that I have someone to learn from. Question 2, how often do you release to production? And this one is a big one. So by asking this question, you can determine how strong their infrastructure is. They say something like we can release daily, or we try to release daily, or weekly, or you can get the feature out on the same day, then that's huge. That means they have automated pipelines, they probably have automated testing, they have a really good QA department that most likely is working on the automation and stuff like that. So that's huge in the fact that you can get something out there that quickly. And the reason that I like to ask this is mostly it's related to my productivity and just engineers' productivity in general. So if they say something like we release, once a quarter, once every 6 months, once a year, then it's kind of a little worrisome because that means they probably don't have a lot of those automated steps in place. However, sometimes companies do just like to release slower. So if they do say something slower, then maybe just hint at the fact and say, well, how does your release process work? Do you have automated pipelines, stuff like that? And you can just straight up ask them at that point. Question 3, how do you support your developers? So some companies just don't care about the growth of their employees. They just want you to go there, do the job, go home. And for some people, that's exactly what they want. For others, they want to grow as an engineer. So what this means is, does the company say things like, we send all our software engineers to this conference, or we pay for an education stipend or something like that, so that you can be continually learning. And the other part is, do they set aside time to where you can do that? Because obviously, if you work 50-hour weeks and they say, oh yeah, we also have these engineering courses that you can do, but you've worked 50 to 60 hours a week, you're not going to want to do that. So you want to make sure that they pay for it or they have something like that. And then also you're going to have time for it, because that's the other big thing. Some people will try to dodge this question and they'll say something like, we have a bunch of developers here that go to meetups. And so what that means is that the company doesn't necessarily care about the engineers and their continual learning, but the engineers care about their continual learning. So just kind of take that with a grain of salt. And so you might meet some fantastic engineers, but the company may not really care what they do. Question number 4. What are some of the pros and cons of working at XYZ company? You can also frame this question as, what are some of the pain points of working here? And then what are some of the things you really enjoy about your current job? So usually you'll get an honest answer out of the engineer, If they lie to you and say something like, "Oh, well, everything's just great here," that's, I mean, every company has their like pain points. Everyone knows that. And so if they say something like that, then I would just raise the red flag and get out of there. If they are already lying to you in the interview, then you definitely want to get out of there because the work environment's going to be 10 times worse. They should definitely be able to say something about the pros of working here or why they like working there. If they can't, then yeah, you just go ahead and go. Like, it's not going to get better from there. Question 5. Depending on who I'm talking to in the interview, if it's someone of maybe an upper division or maybe higher up in the engineering department, then I'll ask what their ideal engineer is. So, I mean, you can phrase this as, what is your ideal engineer at this company? So, from here, if they're a higher up, then you can tell how they want their engineering department to run and their ideal engineer within that department. The reason that I ask this question is mostly it determines the culture fit. Am I going to be a good engineer within this company? Because at some companies, it it may not be beneficial to be a self-starter when they already have these amazing processes set in place. Then it's kind of just there, you just kind of follow it. So you can kind of tell what they're looking for and what their ideal candidate is from this question. Number 6. So this question is my favorite question to ask because you usually get an honest answer and it really tells you a lot about the company. The question is, how many hours do you work in a week? And is crunch time normal? So from here, you can really tell about the work-life balance of the company. If someone says something like 60 to 70 hours a week and crunch time, then that doesn't leave for much time outside of work. That doesn't sound appealing to me. For some other people, it may be. Maybe a giant salary comes with it. But I value my life outside of work a lot and how I spend my time outside of work. So this really tells you the work-life balance of the company. They say something like 60 to 70 hours a week, then yeah, I'm just going to say no unless they're paying me a ton of money. But even then, that's so much stress to take on. For the rest of the companies, I would say anywhere from 35 to maybe 55 hours a week is pretty normal. It kind of depends on the team that you're going to be working on, and as well as the company structure. And then also, it kind of depends on crunch time. So when it comes to crunch time, you just want to make sure that they also talk about that and not just a typical work week. Because if they say something like, yeah, we just work 40 hours, but then your crunch time is like a 70-hour week, then that's rough. And if you do that every, I don't know, 2 weeks, if that's your release cycle, then yeah, that's 1 week that you get to work 40 hours a week. And of course, your mileage may vary because there are some progressive companies that are going to like a 3-day work week, or they have a very asynchronous working schedule. And a good example of this would be GitLab. And you can kind of set your working hours and all your work is done asynchronously. Of course, there are some meetings that you have to attend, but as long as you're getting your work done, then it doesn't really matter to them. And that's really how it should be. Some bonus things that I like to look at is, do they have a blog? If they have an engineering blog, then that's just like a gold star for me because that shows that they're proud of the work that they're doing. And they also care about not just creating features, but engineering as a whole. And so they're really into creating the best possible frameworks, the best possible stuff. And they're proud enough to write about that. And that's something that I really look out for. And then 2 small things is, how prompt were they to the interview? 5 minutes late, yeah, sometimes it happens. Yes, there's, another interview runs late, and then there's maybe technical difficulties, sure. But if they're running like 10 minutes late, 15 minutes late, the interview is like a date. The company should be trying to woo you the entire time. And if they're already not wooing you and they really don't care, then what's that going to look like 6 months into the job when they didn't even care enough to show up on time to the interview? And then general tips about interviewing. In times of COVID, it's likely going to be a video interview. So make sure that your audio and video is working with whatever platform they use. And then also, if they say this is going to be a video interview, make sure that you have the tool that they're using installed on your computer already before. And I shouldn't really have to say this, but it creates an awkward situation and it doesn't make you look good either. Another thing is to look through their website and or their like blog. and just kind of look at the things that they've done and then the things that you'll be working on. By asking more targeted questions about the product that you're going to be working on, it shows that you're genuinely interested. Hopefully you are. And also it shows that you took the time to look at their company. And then always have like a notepad just to write down questions that, you may think of later, or if you kind of get like a little anxious during the interview, then you have your questions just on this notepad that you can look at and just reference them. And then also you can write down their answers. So that way, when you go to the next stage in the interview, which may be a week or two later, then you have the answers down and you already know what they said. So here you can expand on those questions that you already kind of have answered and you can get more details about them. Hey y'all, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you leave it a like and comment down below. And if you didn't like it, make sure you still leave a comment because I'm always looking for feedback about how to improve my videos. So with that, I hope that you take these questions and then nail your next interview. With that, I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.